I'm Helen Bradley. Welcome to this video tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to draw a cartoon mushroom in Illustrator. Before we get started on this tutorial, let's have a look and see what it is that we're going to achieve. We're going to create this little mushroom drawing in Illustrator, and we're going to use a few techniques in doing so. And one of the key techniques is a tool called Draw Inside that allows us to limit our drawing to inside an object. We're also going to use the Shape Builder tool, and we're going to use some brush profiles as well. So this is what we're aiming for. Let's get started. I've created a new document that we're going to use to build up our little illustration in. It's just a 1000 point by 1000 point image, and I've got some of my palettes already open. I've got the Layers palette, Appearance, Swatches, Color and Gradient, and I get to those by choosing Window and then the panel that I want to be showing. So we're going to start off with the mushroom shape. So I'm going to draw the mushroom base using just a line because I want to show you a way of working with some of the tools that are newer to Illustrator. So I've just drawn a line here. It's a black line, and I'm going to set it to about 50 points in width. Now we can turn this into a mushroom stalk using the width tool. So I'm going here to this group of tools and I'm going to select the width tool. I'm just going to click on the top of this stalk area. I'm going to drag outwards so I can make this line wider or narrower. Now at the moment I want a sort of cap on it, a round cap, so I'm going to the stroke tool here and I'm going to ask for a round cap. So there's the top of my mushroom stalk. And now to create the bottom end of my stalk, I'm just going to come down here to this anchor point and start dragging out. So this is the shape I want to use for my mushroom stalk, but right now it's just a line with an interesting profile on it. To make it into an object that I can fill, I'm going to choose Object, Expand Appearance. And now we have a black filled shape. I'm going to switch these two, so now it has a stroke, and throughout this illustration I'm going to use a 3-point line. So here is my starter shape, which has a 3-point stroke on it. It's probably a little bit on the big side, but we'll see in a minute how that works out. The next thing we're going to do is to create the mushroom bits on top. So I'm going to grab the ellipse tool. I'm going to start out by drawing a shape that's going to have the little feathery bits at the bottom of the mushroom. So I'm just going to position that, and it's come in with the same appearance as the last shape, which is just a standard shape that has a black stroke and no fill, and the stroke is 3 points. Now we want a second ellipse, so I'm just going to drag that out. This is going to be the mushroom cap, so I want to line it up so it looks pretty much like this in relation to the shape that I had before. Now I'm going to the direct selection tool because that will allow me to adjust this shape. I'm going to drag in these sides just a little bit by just holding my mouse pointer over this anchor point and just drag it in a little bit. I'm trying to keep this sort of spacing around here about consistent throughout the bottom of this shape. I'm going to take the top one, I'm just going to drag up. If I want a symmetrical mushroom, I'll just drag it straight up. If I want it to be on an angle, a little bit more interesting, I can drag it to the side. So there are the basic pieces of our mushroom. It's just that we need to start working in this area but not have the stalk involved. The way we'll do that is using the Shape Builder tool, because if you ever have problems with the Pathfinder, you may find that the Shape Builder tool gets you out of a lot of the trouble that the Pathfinder can get you into. Here's the Shape Builder tool. I've selected this entire shape, all the pieces. I'm targeting the Shape Builder tool. Now when I hold my mouse pointer over these pieces, you can see that it gets a sort of shading. So I can drag to say I want this to be one complete shape, and that's it. It's as easy as that to achieve. And let's have a look in the Layers palette here. What I've got is 3 individual pieces. This piece, and now this piece. So I'm going to turn off the pieces that I don't want to see, which are these two. I'm going to concentrate on this piece because this is going to be the area where I have those little lines for my mushroom. I'm going to click on this shape here to target it, and I'm going to click here. This is the draw inside option, and I get this sort of funny set of shapes around the object, and that's telling me that I'm now set to draw inside that object. I'm going for the pencil tool, and I'm going to start sort of drawing about here and start drawing my lines, but I want to make sure that my pencil tool is set up the way I want it to be first. I want mine to be smooth. Now I'm using Illustrator CC, so this is the new pencil tool in Illustrator CC. If you're using Illustrator CS6 or earlier, you can set this up pretty much the same way. Essentially what you want is a really smooth set of strokes. I don't want to keep these selected, and I don't want my within value to be very high at all, because I'm likely to get pretty close to existing lines and I don't want to add to them or edit them. I just want to create new lines. So I've set that up now. And now I'm just going to draw these lines. So I'm going to take a point about here and start drawing these lines in position. You can see that they're going just inside the selected shape and they're not going outside it at all. What the shape has done is actually been created as a clipping path. So this is clipping my work to just the area covered by this ellipse. And the nice thing about this pencil tool is I can draw very organically, and Illustrator is smoothing everything out really nicely for me. And if I make a mistake, I can just Control Z to undo it and go and make that line over and over again until I get it right. So we're just going to add a few more lines here just to finish this off. But you'll find the Draw Inside tool can be quite handy for jobs like this where you want to limit the design that you're doing to a particular shape. So let's see what we've got here in the layers palette. We've got this clipping path, which is this outside object, and now we have a whole set of lines inside the object. So let's just deselect that selection, go back to regular drawing, and let's bring back the pieces of our mushroom. And we're ready now to get started and color it. So I'm going to start with the stalk here. So I'm just going to select the selection tool, select on the stalk, and I'm just going to fill it with a brown color that I have here. Then we'll go to this cap, this area here, and we'll fill it. Now I think a gradient would be good, so I'm going to go and find a gradient, and I can find one already in Illustrator by clicking here and choose Open Swatch Library, Gradients, and I'm going for the brights because that's a nice little set of gradients here. And I'm going to target this one, which is a sort of red one. Actually, no, I want the one next to it. This is going to be the gradient that I'm using to fill my mushroom cap. Here's my gradient panel here, and I want to use a radial gradient. So you can see it's now drawing from the inside out. And I want this to be something other than this sort of color. I think I want to use this color here. So I'm going to drag and drop it onto my gradient. And I'm going to make the gradient a little bit more of this color, and now target the gradient tool because I want to position my gradient, and I want it to appear drawn pretty much from this bottom corner of the mushroom. And now I'll click outside. We can start now by creating those little dots that were inside the mushroom, and to do this I'm going to, with nothing selected, press the letter D because that sets up these default colors. Now I want it to have a black stroke, and I want the stroke to be 3 points, so I'm going to preset that. The fill I want to be this yellow color. So now I have the stroke and fill for the little dots. I want to draw inside this shape. So again, I'm going to target this shape and then set Draw Inside, because now I can start drawing circles inside here, and if I go over the edge, then they're going to be cut off. I'm holding the Shift key as I do this. Now I've picked up the wrong fill there, so I'm just changing that. So I'm going to draw 2 or 3 large shapes, and this one I'm actually going to draw, well, I wanted to draw it over the edge. It hasn't gone over the edge, so I'm just going to target the selection tool and just drag it over the edge. And you can see it's now being cut off by that edge. I want to grab this one too and move it across. Okay, let's go back to this clipping group. Make sure it's selected. Make sure we're in this draw inside mode. Reselect this tool. Make sure we've got the right color. Well, I'm going to do that as soon as I've drawn this next shape. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to reselect this clipping group. Make sure we're on draw inside. Make sure that we're seeing these markers around our mushroom that are telling us that we're actually on this draw inside process. It can be a bit fiddly the first few times you use it, but you'll find that it's probably such a handy tool that it is one that you'll want to get a handle on. So now I've got my mushroom top already filled in, and I've got my little circles, I've got my base, but I seem to have lost the little flutes for the mushroom, and that's because they're down the bottom here. So I'm just going to drag them up so that they sit over the top of everything. And here they are. Now we need to fill this in, but I don't want to grab the clipping group. I want to look here for the actual shape that I'm going to use, which is this shape here. I don't want to fill in these lines, I just want to fill in this shape. And I'm going to choose another one of these gradients to do that with. So I'm just trying the gold gradient, probably a bit, yeah, no, that'll do. Let's go back to the gold gradient. I can again make that a radial gradient if I want to, and target the gradient tool and just make sure that it's positioned where I want it to be positioned. And there we are. So let's just deselect the option that we're working in, which is this draw inside mode. Let's go to draw normal. And to finish this off, we're going to add a background. Now I have a script that does this job for me because I do it all the time, and it just creates a rectangle the size of the artboard. And here it is here, and I'm just going to fill it with a blue. If you don't use scripts, then you can just go and create that rectangle yourself. It's on top of everything, so I'm going to drag it so it's now behind everything. With nothing selected, I'm going to press the letter D again to reset my default fill and stroke color. I'm going to select a green color because I'm going to start creating the grass, and that is done again with an ellipse. So I'm just going to drag in my ellipse. Again, it's at the top, so I'm going to drag it down so it's underneath the mushroom. It needs a 3-point stroke on it too. I'm going to click away, and let's go and grab the pencil tool because we're going to use that to draw the grass. Now I'm going to lock down my background and my grass layer because I find that sometimes they have a tendency to walk, and it's really annoying when they do. So I'm just going to draw my first blade of grass, and it's somewhat disappearing because it's being drawn in blue and it's on a blue background. So I'm just going to come in here with the selection tool and select it, and I'm going to change its color. So I'm going to pick up a green color for this. Well, actually right now let's just pick up black so that we can see them. So I'm just going to draw in a few more grass strokes. Again, using the pencil tool just because it's nice and easy to use. I'm grabbing the selection tool and just selecting over these pieces of grass, so now we can start working with them. First of all, I'm going to make their stroke green, and then I'm going to select a profile. So I'm going to use this width profile and then just start increasing the brush width until I get things that look like little blades of grass. Now they're supposed to have this same black outline, so I'm going to first of all expand these with Object, Expand Appearance, and that makes them green filled objects. And now we have the stroke available, so we can give them the same 3-point stroke as everything else in the image has. And now we're going to finish off with some clouds. So I'm going to click on the ellipse tool and I'm going to drag out 4 circles. I want one reasonably big circle, I want a slightly smaller one, a slightly smaller one again, and a tiny one. Now all of these need to have white fills, so let's just go and click on all of them and make sure that we have the fill color and set it to white. I'm now going to position them in position to make up my cloud. Now this is a fairly standard sort of looking cloud shape. It's just created with these little shapes. And now I'm going to grab the rounded rectangle tool and drag a rounded rectangle to sort of join these up to make the balance of my cloud. With the selection tool, I'm going to select over all of these shapes and go back to my shape builder tool. So what I want to do is to join all these together, so I'm just going to drag over the pieces to join them all together. If you find you have a few little anchor points all sitting together, you want to go over the top of those too. So let's just move out of the way, and there's our cloud shape. By holding the Alt key, I can drag a duplicate of the cloud shape away from the original. I'm going to grab one and drop it over here as well. And this one in particular needs to be brought below the mushroom so it looks like it's sitting behind the mushroom and not in front of it. So there is a mushroom drawing created inside Illustrator. You've learned some handy Illustrator techniques here for being able to draw inside a shape using the Shape Builder tool, using some brush profiles to get some interesting shaped grass without having to do all the work yourself. I'm Helen Bradley. Thank you for joining me for this video tutorial. Look out for more videos here on my YouTube channel, and consider subscribing to my channel and you'll be alerted when new videos are released. And visit my website at projectwoman.com for more tips, tricks and tutorials on a range of applications including Photoshop, Lightroom, Illustrator and a whole lot more.